command line cut command can be used if you have parts that have long straight edges where you can do one cut to separate two pieces. So it can be quite helpful to reduce cutting time. So we've got a 18-inch by 18-inch square here that we're going to try to do the command line cutting on. So if you go to the cam area underneath the toolpath submenu, you've got the choice for common. So you've got a couple different ways of course putting this onto the sheet. If you've got the nesting module, you can of course just nest it on there. So we'll do that first. So I'll just plug in a number there, and you want your part distance to be equal to your tool diameter. So if you're using a 1440 nozzle combination, set this to 40 thou. 1030 nozzle combination, set it to 30 thou. And since this is just a square, we're not going to bother with any rotation here. And nest and put it on there. And okay, close. So we've got our pieces on here, and there's a 40 thou gap between all the pieces. Now, if you don't have the nesting module, you can use the array command and put the pieces onto a sheet. So I'll just duplicate a sheet here and put that down here. So if I didn't have the nesting, I can go in and I can go the transform command. I can use the array commands. So what I'll do first is I'll just copy this piece here, and I'll copy it from this corner, and I'll zoom in and snap that to that corner there. And then I can go to transform, array, and I'll array that. And then if I click on this, I can tell it to have it pick a corner of a sheet and have it figure out rows and columns. First of all, I'll do is I'll tell it the spacing between the pieces for the rows and the columns. So again, we would set this to our stream diameter. So we're going with 40 thou. X and Y. So you can see up here now it's got the delta X, delta Y, and it's added on the 40 thou to the 18-inch of the part. And then I can click on this here. So I don't know how many rows and columns I want. I can just click on this and say basically go up to this point here. So it'll figure out how many that'll fit in there, and click on OK. So if it ends up going over like it did in this point here, I can just delete those pieces. But either way, we've got our pieces on here. We've got our 40 thou gap, however you want to do it. So what we'll do now is we'll go back onto the cam tab, click on toolpath, click on common, and this comes up here. So you got different ways of doing the command line cutting. If you do it part-wise, so we'll do one of these part-wise, we'll do one of it sheet-wise, so you can see that. Part-wise, it will cut the circles, and then it'll cut lines, and then circle line, circle line. Sheet-wise, it'll do all the inside cuts first, and then I'll come back and do all the common cuts. So first we'll just do part-wise, and again we've got our tool diameter there, 40 thou, lead and length, which you can specify as whatever you want, type of piercing that you want to use, then how you want to work through the sheet. Trim to sheet we'll talk about in a bit. We won't do that right now, and I'll just click on OK and select parts, drag a box around the parts here, and if we zoom in, you'll see we've got the one red line between the pieces here. So then if you go and we'll do our simulation on this, set our 0, 0, and we'll do a 2D simulation, a little bit easier to see in 2D mode. And we'll just click here, and we'll set this back to the 1 for right now, and now we'll speed it up. So you'll see it'll come over, it'll cut the inside circle, we'll go a little bit faster, and then it'll do 4 edges of that first piece, and then it'll do next circle, and then it'll do 3 edges of the next piece. So this way it tends to be a bit more piercing involved, but sometimes if you're concerned maybe about things moving on the table, might be more effective to do it this way. So we'll speed that up. So that's the part-wise option. And if we do the other one sheet-wise, so back to toolpath, common, we'll change this to sheet-wise. Keep the other things the same. The other option you have with the sheet-wise is when it's coming back the second time to cross across where it's already cut, you have the option of cutting a little bit faster on those little areas there where it's already cut, so you can select a different quality when it crosses across those areas. And we'll select these pieces down here. And again, we'll set our 0, 0 and do a simulation on this one. And we'll start this. We'll slow it down a bit. So again, we'll see that it's going to do all the, in this case, it'll do all those inside holes first. And then when it gets around to doing the common cuts, we'll slow it down a bit so you can see the ramping. So right now it's just continue on here. So let's pause it here. If you look up in the code, you'll see that it's going 13 inches a minute, and then when it hits this little area here where it's crossing over the other cut, then for that brief moment goes up to 21 inches a minute, and then it'll go back down to 13. So that's the ramping or on the cross sections there. So I'll do that, and then it'll go around the outside. Okay, and then the other option is in there is trim to sheet. So let me just let's see here. We'll just copy this and just drag this over here. And I'm just going to change this sheet. Right now I've got a 1/4 inch collar going around the entire sheet, so I'll set that to 0. Use clamp zones is not checked. And now what I'll do is I'll move this from this corner down to this corner here so it butts right up against the edge. So what we're going to do is, rather than having to cut these edges, we're just going to use the raw edge of the material for those. So obviously you have to be very careful that when you're setting this material up on the table that it's square and you've got your nozzle right at the corner of the material when you start this. So if you've got a little bit more wider tolerance on the pieces, you might be able to use this this feature. And I'll just go ahead and grid those out again here. So we'll just go back to CAD, and I could have copied them, but we'll just do it this way again for fun. And we'll click there. We've got our spacing, and we're going to go, oops, try that again, go to there. Okay. And so now if we go back into toolpath, common, and this time we'll check the trim to sheet, and we'll select these pieces and set our 0, 0 and do our 2D. So right here you can see that there's no cuts along these edges because it's just using the raw edge of the sheet there. And that's that. And then the other option that they've got in there is, drag this down here, and we'll just let me just delete the toolpath. So let me go to here, delete toolpath on those ones. So the other option in there is if you just want to essentially get all the lines, there's an option here for lines. It'll just draw lines between all the pieces, and then you can use that if you needed to do any additional modification to the drawing. You can just grab those and copy them. So that's the common cut command. If you have any questions, let us know. Thanks.